Ibia domenuzo. Wahia baby negekai. Esa, Lara, Esa Kowamude. I bring you all greetings from EPIA's headquarters, Edo Indigenous Movement Worldwide. This broadcast is brought to you to address the issues that is currently going on in our dear countries, Nigeria, today. We all know that it has been a red and black state in the country at the moment, and the country is at the mourning state. It is not a news to each and every one of us that Nigerian youth has decided to fight for what rightfully belongs to them and to speak with one voice without a leader. This action of the youth of Nigeria is highly commendable by EPIA. But firstly, we want to start by condemning the act of the killing of innocent protesters of Edo indigents in the state. It has initially been condemned by our articles, through our articles, and we had called on the governor of the state to launch an investigation to that effect and make sure that the first perpetrators are brought to justice in that regard, with that regards. This is not a happy hour for us, I must tell you. Because one soul or one blood that is lost in Edo state is an effect to all Edo indigents. And secondly, we want to send a clear, condemnable act of what transpired at Lekki Tollgate. We want to use this opportunity to condemn that act of the military. We believe that action was inhuman, that action was not acceptable, and that action is condemnable. And thirdly, we want to also use this opportunity to send a clear message to the hoodlums who has hijacked the peaceful protest of the youth in order for them to lend their voice to be heard by the federal government and by the politicians at large. That the act of this protest by the youth is not to be dented by any negative actions. Let me send a clear message to our youth in Edo State, first of all, because it's in Benin adage that we want to talk to our people first. We want you youth to know that Edo Indigenous Movement is fully in support of your peaceful protest. But you must take some certain things into cognizance. That you must, during the course of your protest, protect the lives and properties of your mothers and your fathers and your families wherever they are sited. Because our mothers in the market, the owners of business, are not the cause of our problem today. Let the wrong elements not spoil this whole peaceful protest for the innocent youths. I want to call on all of you to be very cautious in the way and manner that you protest, so that at the end of it all, you will gain your victory and gain a global support with regards to your protest. Your protest is legitimate, is very valid, is supportive by the entire world. So let us not mess it up. I implore you people to follow the Geneva rules for protest, the international standard rules for protest, so that the world will continue to support your peaceful protest. Now it is clear that what the Nigerian Labour Union was not able to do, that they call off the strike that they proposed in order to address simple issues like the increment of fuel and the increment of electricity tariff. The youths now have decided to synergize amongst themselves around the world, cutting across religion, cutting across tribal and ethnicity sentiments, to protest against what is not right in the country. Now, as you can hear all over the media and through the government agencies, the hoodlums has hijacked the protest. The youth must not allow that to happen. The youths must stay focused. Now that the government and its agencies has begun to speak with regards to the protests of the youths, the biggest question mark that should be coming out from every mouth of Nigerian indigents around the world is, what is the action the government is currently taking with regards to the peaceful protests of the youths, irrespective of the hoodlums that has hijacked, or the hoodlums that has partaked, or that is currently partaking in the peaceful protest. I believe the youth's voice and their positions are very clear. What they are saying is simple. They need a total reform of all sectors in the country. They started by the terminology NSAS. We all know how the actions of the SARS in the country has been deadly and has been detrimental, and we all know that that has resulted to the killings of so many youths and the obtaining, and equally the marginalization of our youths by the SARS force. It is very clear that the youths also want the arm of the legislatives, the lawmakers, to be placed on minimum wage. It is also clear that they are protesting against insecurity in the country. It is also clear that they are protesting against instability of energy in the country. They're protesting against corruption. They're protesting against zero jobs in the country. It is high time the government should begin to act on the request of the youths, because the youths are the leaders, should be the leaders of today. It is their turn. It is not their fault. Most of the Nigerian indigents or citizens today are beginning to speak from the boat of their mouths. Ever since this political elite has been oppressing the youths has been very calm. The youth has been very organized. The youth has been very tolerant to this long age of oppression. Didn't you know, Mr. Politician and Mr. Government, that one day will come that the youth will revolt against all these corrupt acts of yours, oppression of yours, and marginalization of yours? This country does not belong to you politicians alone. Give the youths a chance in government. It is their turn now. This is just the beginning of the youth's reactions. And we all have seen that their synergy is not in question anymore. Do not downplay the acts of the youths. Do not underestimate the energy of the youths. It has started. What is needed now is what is now the response from the federal government. What is now the position of the leaders? Have you started making plans on how you will place the legislators on minimum wage? Have you started making plans on how you're going to introduce a reform in the energy sector? Have you started making plans on how you are going to introduce reform in the police force sector? Have you started making plans on how you are going to set a precedence in the country? Have you started making plans for the youths to get into power? Have you started making plans against marginalization in this country? Against oppression of the poor? If this is not taken care of now, the second wave of the youth's movement will be disastrous. Let us put our hands together to make sure that every Nigerian air their voice to support the peaceful protest of the Nigerian youths. We support the Nigerian youths with their struggle, and we call on them to persist with their struggle until a result, until the government respond to their request. But on one condition, for them to persist peacefully in line with the international law or the Geneva Convention. Let us know that the country does not belong to only the politicians and the elites. Let us know that the youths has woken up and they are not going to fall asleep anymore. It gets to a point that the youths will no longer accept it. And we all have seen that energy on the street. It is very sad that at this juncture, the president is still yet to address the nation. We call on the president to address the nation by addressing the requests of the youths and by swinging into action to begin to implement reforms in every sector that will affect the youth's request positively. And I also want to use this opportunity to call on all the leaders of several organizations around the country to understand that this is a youth movement, and this is not an opportunity for you to think you can hijack or be at the forefront or play a role, a leadership role in this youth protest movement. You can support the youth from your angle, but don't try to hijack or to parade yourself as if you are one of the organizers or the leaders of this youth movement. Allow the youths to air their voice unanimously. It's their turn. It's their right. No one can stop them. Not even me. Not even the government. Only you, the government, the president, can respond to the request of the youths today so that the youths can see some actions of reforms rolling in, and that is the solution, the only solution to the youths, for the youths to go back or to go off the streets. Let us not think for 1 minute that curfew alone can stop the youths from what they are protesting for. Reforms is the solution and not curfew. We ask that this reform in all sectors in the country should begin to take effect with immediate effect to avoid a second wave of the youth protests. This is what we ask the federal government to do for the peace and tranquility of this nation. We fear for the wrong targets. We are concerned for people or enemies of the country who will try to infiltrate or cause problem within the ethnic youths, different ethnic youths, in order for them to target as an ethnic problem. It is not an ethnic problem. This is the awakening of Nigerian youths, and they are not joking. Let us know that and respect the right of the youths and give the youth what belongs to them. Thank you. As you, government, swing into action, we will be on the watch. God bless Nigerians. God bless Edo indigenous people.